Hey y'all, welcome to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
Don't you mean Boona O'Leary?
No.
You don't? You don't at all?
You'd be Screamy? I don't know.
Yeah, my name is only good for being like a backup high school quarterback, and that's it.
Or it's how you say it in like a Damien of the Omen way.
Dustin. Yeah, pretty much.
I can't get my voice deep.
Oh, no, that's 100% right. Damien's real first name was Dustin, so in fact, Damien a little creepier, so they went with his middle name. But yeah, it's that time here in America, a time of ghosts and spookums and other paranormal what's-its-is.
Yeah.
Our pumpkins are spiced to maximum. There's metric dozens of horror movies that have gone direct to streaming, and they're all fine.
Injected in my veins.
So yeah, I think it's more than appropriate that we here at Gadfly have to do a Halloween episode.
It's a spooky Gadfly season.
It's gonna be so scary. Look, I tried really hard to try to find a time that a ghost won an election. And I just found a bunch of times people died before an election. I was like, oh, that might be fun. And almost all of them were just like, he had a heart attack and the town loved him, so they voted him in.
He ate iced cherries too quickly.
No one loved John Tyler. This is or Zachary Taylor. Why do I forget presidents? God damn it. This is supposed to be my job. This is my unpaid internship I gave to myself.
The scariest fact of all.
I mean, I'm paying myself in experience, so eventually it's going to work out. So I think I found one of the scarier stories I could tell for this. So we're going to be telling the story of Jason Ravnsborg. Thunder sound effect. All right, wait, I actually got to check my notes here. I mispronounced that. So his last name is spelled kind of like Ravensburg, Ravnsborg. So Ravensborg, but it's Danish. So it can't be scary if it's the Danes. So it's actually pronounced Ravnsborg.
Yeah, his name is Ravnsborg.
Yeah, so Jason Ravnsborg.
Jason Ravnsborg.
I don't know. Is that a Danish accent? It sounds very German.
It's very German. Can I even do? No, just like to the listeners at home, look up a clip of John Oliver making fun of the Danes because he nails them.
So Jason was born in Cherokee, Iowa in 1976, and he ended up growing up on his family farm. And look, like all good horror stories, the first 10 minutes are just going to be exposition. Like I already set up the name Ravensburg. There's thunder. It sounds like he's a character in Warhammer. So this is just going to be a lot of exposition. We're going to try to find some funny in this, but for the most part, it's just going to be reading this guy's resume.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Here we go. So he graduates from high school in 1994, joins the ROTC in 1996, so becomes part of the Army Reserves. And then he graduates from the University of South Dakota with a double major in history and political science in 1998. So already not the best of signs that we got an overachiever on our hands, but
yeah.
So with degree in hand, he also received a promotion in the Army Reserves to second lieutenant, which is pretty typical. He then followed this up by getting his law degree and a master's degree in history in 2001 from the University of South Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's doing numbers.
From here, he went on to clerk for Judge Timothy Connell in Minnesota. But, he did join the Army Reserves at a really unfortunate time because it's around this time that George W. Bush decided that Iraq was looking at him just a little too funny and decided, you know what, these guys need to be in the war on terror.
Yep.
So in 2003, Jason would get deployed to Germany for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then the next year, he was deployed straight to Iraq to run various transport missions. And as while he was there, his transport would come under enemy fire, and Jason would be awarded the Bronze Star following the attack.
Oh, wow.
He returned to the United States in 2004, immediately joined the law firm of Harmelink & Fox in Yankton, South Dakota. And within 2 years, he made partner, which, yeah, I mean, it seems to be a pretty small law firm. So I think it's one of those things where they're like, this guy has a lot of potential. Let's go ahead and just make him partner before he goes to a city.
Yeah. I also feel, just my own bitterness of like, had I only been born 10 years before and could have gotten the jump on the millennials.
I know, oh my God. Yeah, it was very much the sort of thing where it's just like, it just kind of all worked out. You have a war hero on your freaking payroll. You make that guy partner.
With a master's and JD.
I know. I hear law school is tough enough. I don't get how you do law school and a separate master's degree at the same time.
I think you do the master's to stay sane, to like continue having one foot in reality.
Interesting. You know what? Yeah, you're making Jason sound a lot better than he deserves. I'll just say.
Oh my God, wait, I just put it together. His name is Jason, and we're talking about him around Halloween?
Yep.
All right.
So it's around this time that he starts to represent Camp Crystal Lake. And it was mostly a boundary dispute to begin with.
Because it was created on top of an Indian burial ground?
Look, if they didn't want a shitty campground on top of their ancestors, I have nowhere to go with this. In the exact same year, he was also appointed to be the deputy state's attorney for Union County and was also invited to speak before the freaking U.S. Senate Committee on Armed Services. He was one of 2 soldiers who got to do that in 2006 during this particular committee. It was essentially like, how are things in Iraq? And it was just like, not great, but
how do you think we're doing?
Yeah. So 2006 was one of those breaking years for Jason. And one of those things that gets annoying when you realize he's 30 when all of this happened. And finally, in 2009, he would do one final tour of duty where he was deployed to Afghanistan. Now that we've covered all this backstory, we could talk about Jason's first push into politics. And dude swung big, deciding that he was going to run for the U.S. Senate in 2014. So Tim Johnson, the last Democrat to ever win statewide office in South Dakota, had just retired. And it was about the most perfect time for a Republican to ascend to one of the more powerful positions you can have in America, with 6 years of guaranteed employment. So sensing his opportunity, Jason dove into the race with the goal of, quote, restoring the American dream for South Dakota.
I'm pretty sure South Dakota has always been fine. You know, like I
mean, parts of it are doing okay. Parts of it very much not.
Right. But I feel like the parts that are not are like the parts that are like, no, I've seen your American dream and it just passes me by. Like has always historically done so.
Yeah. Passed me by and run me over. Repeatedly, 100%. So I wasn't able to find much on Jason's Senate race back then. I was able to find an interview he did with a local NPR affiliate. And even in South Dakota, they got that like soft NPR voice that's just like trying really hard to help everyone calm down.
Yeah.
And so it's from here we get kind of the general idea of what he wants to do. He's a real big idea of that whole cut $1 from every $100 of spending in the government budget. So essentially just cut the entire budget by 1%, just across the board. But not so much for the military budget. He seems to really believe that the military budget's got to stay where it is.
Oh, great. How about that?
Yeah, I know,
Jason?
Right? Yeah, he makes a bunch of weird examples where it's like, they're trying to figure out how much methane a cow produces, and they're spending all this money on that. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sure universities are doing that work in general, and it's a question, so let's figure it out.
But do you need one more drone?
I mean, they're so fucking bitchin', Una. Have you seen them? They're great. They go, and then they, and then a wedding's dead. It's great.
Oh my God.
Hey. So he's asked, are you going to be bipartisan? This is like Tea Party time-ish a little bit after. And like, are you going to get along with everyone? He's like, I want to sit down with all 99 senators and discuss their top 10 priorities and try to figure out a way we can work together to get them all eventually done. Like, if you can get the scheduling to work, fucking bless you, man. But I don't think you're going to have a very good time when you got to talk to Bernard and he's got a laundry list of things and he wants to meet at a diner and the food budget is $4.
Yeah.
He does support Tea Party candidates pretty strongly. He's very against Obamacare. But at the same time, he's trying to really hard to sound like a moderate. It's very strange. He also complains that no one talks about their specific ideas, but he really doesn't either. He seems to support a lot of ideas that other people have had, like Tom Coburn's Patient Care Act, which was created to replace Obamacare, where one of the main changes is that instead of putting people on Medicare, folks would get a tax credit that they could then use for health insurance. But without knowing how much that tax credit would be, you're either going to get an equivalent to Medicare or bare bones bullshit.
Bare bones bullshit. That tax credit isn't coming for another year plus. Meanwhile, you're still paying down the interest on the credit card you used to pay for the initial medical procedure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's some real kick the can bullshit.
Ugh.
He would also like to introduce an amendment that says any law that is passed must also apply to Congress and the president, which, hate to tell you, bud, it do. It's just this is also how capitalism works.
Right. I know it doesn't seem like it, but that's also like, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, it's like people in power get away with shit because they can buy good lawyers.
And
I don't know what to tell you, pal.
Right. You're trying to get into politics for that same power.
Yeah, it's like you're friends with the judge. Of course you're going to be fine. It's like when you want things to be awkward at playing golf. No one wants that. It sucks already.
Your wives are in a book club.
Is that the equivalent to dudes playing golf? All right, here's the book none of us read. Let's awkwardly sit in silence.
Yeah, but with more snacks. I think the book club's coming out ahead.
Oh, 100%. He supports the Keystone Pipeline and believes the EPA has a radical agenda. He hates that the media calls undocumented folks undocumented instead of calling them illegal aliens, and only wants people who assimilate to American culture to immigrate here. As everyone has before. My
heart goes out to the Native American people of South Dakota who are, I'm sure, side-eyeing this bitch right here.
Oh, no. I think pretty much every reservation has come to hate Jason over the past 4 years very easily. Like, if you know a water protector, you hate Jason Ravnsborg quite a bit.
Yeah.
And also, surprise, surprise, he's pro-life. Who saw that coming? And with a platform like that, Jason went into the GOP primary against the frontrunner, former governor of South Dakota, Mike Rounds. And he got fucking embarrassed in this fucking primary. Jason finished 5th out of 5, getting 2.8% of the vote. And to see how bad this was, the woman who finished in front of him is a physician by the name of Annette Bosworth, who got twice as many votes as Jason did, and describes herself as a Republican Marxist.
Damn, Jason.
Yeah.
Damn.
It is no bueno. It's not good. There's nothing... I don't know how you could fail that bad. Because he on NPR, he's talking about, like, I drove to all these towns that none of these politicians went to. And he couldn't
Was
convince
that part of the problem? They met him?
I mean, he's not exactly the most charismatic guy to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he clearly got the smarts because, I mean, a fucking law degree and a master's degree at the same time. I mean, clearly you know your shit, but you got to make it exciting. It's got to pop.
Right. And also, like, what do we love more in America than hating on people who come in confidently knowing their shit?
Very true. At least if, like, Annette came into town and she's like, I'm a Republican Marxist, I would immediately be like, I'm probably not going to vote for you, but fucking tell me more. I want to know.
Whereas Jason Ravnsborg came in with his stupid accent.
Oh my God. Oh my God. But between that race and his next, I don't know what, but something fucking happened. In 2018, Jason would decide to set his sights just a little bit lower, and instead he ran for Attorney General of South Dakota. So one of the big advantages is that instead of having to run on a primary like he did for Senate, Attorney General for the state, the primary is decided at the state party convention. So you're not running statewide. You just pretty much have to impress the people of the party, and if they like you enough, then you get to be the nominee and then go into the election where people vote for you.
Yeah, you just got to cozy up to power, my man.
And apparently he's really good at that because within 4 years, he collected dozens upon dozens of endorsements from county sheriffs, deputy state attorneys, and by June of 2018, he had built up a coalition that allowed him to cruise easily to win the primary in the second round of voting at the state convention. And by all rights, Jason's rise was a bit of a shock. Dude really was kind of a nobody who suddenly collected this inner circle that was willing to go to bat for him. And thanks to South Dakota being a firmly red state, winning the GOP primary was pretty much the only hurdle he really had to cross. He would face Democrat Party Vice Chairman Randy Seiler in the general, and he ended up getting beat by a kind of close 55 to 45. Honestly, it was good enough, genuinely good enough, but not a win. And as Attorney General, Jason got busy. So any one of these things I could go deep into for a while. I'm only going to pick a couple, and even then it's going to be like medium deep, but I'm going to run through these. He testified before the state legislature in support of SB 47, a bill that would allow people to carry guns without a permit. You can now carry guns without a permit in South Dakota. They're one of 14 states where you can do that.
Dear God, no.
The guns run free.
Thunder sound effects.
He attempted and failed to restrict presumptive probation. The general idea behind this is if you're found guilty of a lower level felony, such as like a nonviolent drug crime, 9 times out of 10, you should get probation instead of jail time, unless the judge is like, you're clearly eventually going to hurt someone. Right. But if it's just like you constantly have weed, it's like, no, probation. We don't go get help, have fun.
Right.
Or, move to Illinois and have some fucking fun.
Yeah. Start selling the weed.
Exactly. Get a job at MedMen. Find your passion.
Live your dream. This is America, after all.
And so he presented the idea that we should get rid of that. And the state would end up turning it down. I don't think due to moral reasons, but they did the numbers and they found out that if they did suddenly put all these people in jail, the state would now have to pay $45 million to pay for all these people who are now in jail.
I mean, come on. Yes.
Jason would also push and succeed in making industrial hemp and CBD oil illegal in the state, making South Dakota the only state where cannabinoid oil ingestion is a felony.
What a fucking narc.
He supported the death penalty remaining in place for people with severe mental illnesses, but the state Senate turned that down. This is a fun one. He led an investigation into Minnehaha County State Attorney Aaron McGowan, who, after 11 years on the job, suddenly started to just stop showing up for work for about 2 months. And when he did, he seemed to be very drunk.
Oh.
And on top of this, he also began sending inappropriate text messages to staffers. The one example that most newspapers use is that he sent a text message to a female staffer and said, "Hey, if you buy me a bottle of alcohol, I'll come over to your house and drink it with you," which is the most teenage shit I've ever heard.
Like, it's almost endearing and just like how blatant this man genuinely had a problem. You know, it's just like, it's not like gross. It's not weird, like daddy's home shit. Yeah. It's just like, hey, all the liquor stores know me by face.
Look, it doesn't even have to be
concern.
Good. Just get a handle of Popov. I'll bring some Kool-Aid. We'll make this shit work.
Hey, you want to tell
you're my favorite staffer? You're my best friend. But yeah, and so Jason looked into it and he was like, I don't think Aaron committed any crimes here, but clearly something's up. Eventually, McGowan would later resign, blaming ill health and the media. And the county would pay him $35,000 just to resign.
Okay, that's not bad. Like,
dude, I'll take that money.
Yeah, especially in South Dakota, that'll get you far.
Yeah,
and hopefully as far away from whatever your situation is, and maybe into a rehab facility.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, you can get into a decent rehab facility for half the month. I'm sure. I think
invest the other half.
Yeah, exactly. Jason would end up signing on to an amicus brief, which is kind of like a letter of endorsement or like an agreement sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. That's the best way I can describe it.
Sounds right.
In the Supreme Court case of Bostock versus Clayton County, this was a case that was going to state whether or not the 1964 Civil Rights Act included protection against employment discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. And Jason is again it.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Man is like completely radicalized.
But Jason would get the chance to actually speak before the Supreme Court in the opening of an antitrust investigation into Google. The dude's weirdly actually a bit of a trust buster in some ways. It's very strange.
Okay, so is this like the one redeeming thread that like he might see a monopoly and see it as a monopoly and try to curb the monopoly?
I mean, very potentially. Another case that he did is he led an antitrust investigation into the meatpacking industry, noting that 80% of meatpacking is controlled by a handful of companies, which makes it kind of shitty if you're a cattle farmer.
I'm sorry, did you say a handful of companies?
Yes, a handful. This is Halloween. I'll allow it.
Thunder sound effects.
God damn it. You're abusing it. Also, I get full permission. Thunder sound effect. Anyway, he entered into a lawsuit as well with Alabama and Louisiana to block the Equal Rights Amendment from being added to the Constitution. Now this one, so Una, this one's a tricky wicket. So the Equal Rights Amendment was first introduced back in 1923. It was written by the suffragettes Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman. And the general goal of the amendment is to guarantee equal legal rights regardless of sex.
Which for our listeners, I'm sure it's like, you mean it's not already in there? Exactly,
Nope.
Dear listeners, exactly.
Nope, not here in America. You got to bootstrap those rights. So the amendment would be presented multiple times since 1923, but it would eventually find success in 1971 after being introduced by Michigan Congresswoman Martha Griffiths. The House and Senate would pass the amendment in 1972, pushing it to the states for approval. So in the American Constitution, the only way you can add a new amendment to make a law for the entire country is if 38 out of the 50 states approve. I believe that's 67%. It's like a 2/3 majority, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
So you need 38 states to sign on to this amendment for it to become national law. And it was doing really good for a while. By 1977, it had gotten up to 35 of the 38 needed states to be on board.
And then so close.
A real piece of shit by the name of Phyllis Schlafly decides to step in. Phyllis is she's showing up because she thinks the Equal Rights Amendment is anti-housewife and anti-status quo. I got to see her speak once. She is a haggard piece of shit.
Wow.
Yeah, she essentially was talking about how clearly women aren't as strong as men because they can't play football.
I'm not like, it has no merit. It just is a woman with a full body mission of scoring her own goal. It's just, that's the worst part. It's just like, who took it to, and also it's like, we're talking about a woman with clearly like a lust for power. I mean, it's like this, the Equal Rights Amendment was well on its way. Like we were doing great. We were fine. And then out of nowhere and very quickly, Phyllis Schlafly, boom.
Yeah.
Like,
and we'll definitely do an episode on her at some point. There's a lot of things about her in the Eagle Forum that I think is really worthwhile talking about. But yeah, that'll be a story for another day. Either which way, Phyllis got to work. And by 1979, only 30 states remained on board. And the thing that sucked is 1979 was the deadline that was set for the amendment to be passed. The issue that comes up, though, is that in 2017, there was a new push made by states to attempt to ratify the amendment post-deadline. And in 2020, Virginia became the 38th state to pass it. And a push was made to make the amendment law. But since the 1979 deadline had passed, Alabama, Louisiana, and South Dakota sued to ensure that the process didn't move forward and succeeded. And look, technically correct. So maybe, I don't know, we should reintroduce it. I don't know if it would pass, but maybe reintroduce the fucker.
It's better than nothing.
I mean, 38 states are clearly supporting of it, so let's fucking go.
Yeah, maybe go without Alabama, Louisiana, and South Dakota. And also, when we get it, you're welcome.
Exactly.
Citizens of Alabama, Louisiana, and South Dakota.
And let's just hit the final three here. He enforced South Dakota's draconian protest laws that were mostly used against the Keystone Pipeline protesters and water protectors. He joined on to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's attempt to overturn the 2020 election. And finally, Jason set up a missing person runaway child clearinghouse. So when you go to the Secretary of State website, there is a tab for missing persons, and it's literally a list of every person who is currently missing or considered a runaway. Decent idea. And he then began to promote it on the state website as Missing Person Mondays, which featured a new missing person each week.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're going for there, but it doesn't need a cute name, Jace.
It's one of those things where like, it's actually one of the few good intentions.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since the majority of folks on that list are indigenous Lakota Sioux individuals.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we've kind of made it very easy to, what's the word I'm looking for? Murder them with impunity in this country.
Yeah, like all the impunity. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like, okay, great. Are you putting any monetary resources behind Missing Person Monday?
I mean, the page doesn't look great, and I don't think they've done Missing Person Monday in a while. So.
Oh, this guy is a cartoon villain.
Yeah. But you know what, Una? The reason that we're here is because there is one major story to tell about Jason. And it all starts on a dark, lonesome night just out of Highmore, South Dakota. And for the sake of clarity, it wasn't raining or storming that night. On September 12th, Jason would be in the city of Redfield, attending the Spink County Lincoln Day dinner at Rooster's Bar and Grill. Now, Lincoln Day dinners are a yearly fundraiser often held by local Republican groups. So like the county Republicans would run it, or like the Young Democrats. Democrats have their own version called the Jefferson-Jackson dinners. And so the version that the Republicans have, it's usually just like you have a get together, you have some keynote speakers, there might be a silent auction of some sort. It's kind of like a local get together. In the South, though, they're known as Reagan dinners. And I hate to say it, Lindsey Graham has the best quote on this. Quote, "We don't do Lincoln Day dinners in South Carolina. It's nothing personal, but it takes a while to get over things."
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Lost cause, motherfuckers.
So at this particular Lincoln dinner, Jason would attend with Senator Mike Rounds and a number of other high-ranking keynote speakers. He would have a steak, a baked potato, and a single Coca-Cola. And at 9 p.m., he hopped in his 2011 red Ford Taurus and began to drive back home to the state capital of Pierre, which is spelled Pierre, and I don't think any of us have ever pronounced it right.
I don't think I've ever thought about South Dakota's capital until today.
Spelled Pierre, pronounced Pierre. I'm going to try really hard to keep it that way.
Pierre, South Dakota.
Yeah, it's Pierre, Michigan, damn it. And when I heard Jason say that the first time, I'm like, what fucking Iowa bullshit is this?
It is not the right accent, that is for sure.
James ruining our capitals.
Pierre, South Dakota.
So he would pass through the city of Highmore around 10 p.m., enter onto Highway 14, and out of nowhere, something hit the front right of his car. Now, those of you from the country already know what's happening here. One of the great joys of country life is that at one point, you're going to hit a deer.
Yep.
It's happened to me, happened to my sister twice. It's something so common that in Ohio, when I hit my deer and I called the insurance company, they said, yeah, it's approved. This happens all the time. Go get it. So, Jason pumps the brakes, comes to a stop, calls 911, which we can actually listen to right now.
Ooh.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
911, this is Allie. How can I help you?
Allie, Allie, I'm the Attorney General, and I don't know, I hit something.
You hit something?
By Highmore. Highmore, and it's in the middle of the road.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Let me get your map. Do you know where you're at?
Now, Una, I saw the face you made when he introduced himself as Attorney General.
Before his name, before anything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know how it is. You call 911, you're like, hey, I'm Dusty. I'm the president of Mars. I think I hit something.
I think I hit something. And before we go any further, I need you to know I am in a position of authority.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I hit, it's cool.
It's totally fine. All right, let's go back.
I believe I'm by Highmore. I'm right. I can see the town.
Okay.
I think that's Highmore.
East or west?
I just went through it. I am west of Highmore.
Okay.
About a mile, if that.
Okay. And this is Scott.
Okay, again.
And what was your name?
Jason. Ravnsborg.
Ravnsborg. Perfect. Okay. You said you got
Attorney General is my name. All right, so it goes on from there, and at some point he consistently says he doesn't know what he hit, and then Allie, the 911 operator, says, "Did you hit a deer or something?" He's like, "I don't know, but it's the country. He's in the middle of nowhere. It's the thing that really kind of makes the most sense." So they say they're going to send out the sheriff, and true to their word, Hyde County Sheriff Mike Volek would arrive on the scene pretty quickly. And that's mostly because he lived about a half mile away from where he hit the deer. So by the time Volek arrived, Jason had become certain that, obviously, I hit a deer. It is what it is. He looked around the car, and so did the sheriff, and neither of them saw the deer that he had hit. Which, really isn't uncommon. Feral creatures, sometimes you can wham them really good. They go into shock and run off and then just kind of die in the woods. They're tough and fragile at the same damn time. So I think both of them just probably assumed in the moment, like, that's what happened. You hit the deer, it ran off. It's either alive or dead, and there's really no point in tracking it right now.
Right.
So,
at least more damage wasn't done to you or the car.
Exactly. So Volek looked over Jason's car, and there were a couple of problems. For one, the front bumper, the front right is just, I'll show you a picture in a bit. But the front right tire had a bit of metal on it from where the dent had happened. And half the windshield was now concave on the passenger side. Yeah, it looked like the deer had rolled up and hit the windshield. And so at this point, it's the car can drive. It's just not safe. So the sheriff is like, all right, if you want, you can come back. We'll hop in my car. I'll take you back to my place. You can borrow my car and drive home.
Because you are the attorney general, after all.
Yeah, how many fucking times is an attorney general going to ask you a favor? When is Kwame Raoul going to walk up to you and say, hey, Una, I need to borrow some sugar.
I need a tampon. Yeah, not soon enough.
Hey, you got it, bro. So he goes to there, gets the car. Jason drives home. He calls his chief of staff along the way to let him know what had happened. And the two made plans to return the car the very next day. So at 9 a.m., Jason and his chief of staff, Tim Borman, made their way back to Highmore. And on the way, they decided to stop by the site of the collision just to see if Jason had missed anything. And by then, his car had been towed, and all that remained were some debris. And Jason and Tim began looking along the side of the road, and it's there that they saw what Jason had hit. 55-year-old Joseph Beaver. And Joseph was, in fact, deceased.
Holy shit.
So Joe had been born in Brookings, South Dakota, and he would attend the University of South Dakota, just like Jason, only instead he would earn his degree in nursing. He spent the vast majority of his career working in nursing homes across the country, and he also did odd jobs as a handyman for some time for some extra cash. 2017, though, his life would take a bit of a turn because that year he and his wife separated. And after that, he decided to return home to South Dakota to live near family. He was now between jobs and was doing whatever work he could find to bring in income. And this involved working on the farm of his cousins, Victor and Nick Nemec. So on the night of the 12th, Joseph was driving along Highway 14. When he reached across his console to roll a cigarette, he accidentally drifted off the road, drove into the ditch, and crashed his truck into a hay bale. Joe was okay, but his truck, it was kind of fucked, and there was no way it was going to be able to drive without popping a tire. So he called up his cousin Victor, told him what happened, and Victor picked him up, drove him to Joe's home. The two made plans to get the truck the next day, but after Victor left, Joe decided to return to his truck. It was only a mile and a half of a walk, but it was a pitch black night. And as Joe was reaching the location of his truck, that's when he was struck by Jason's car.
Oh my God.
So after seeing that it wasn't a deer, Jason and Tim drove directly to Sheriff Volek and informed him what they had found. And the three of them immediately returned to the site. And after confirming that Jason had hit a person, Volek did what any cop would do to any of us in that situation and requested that Jason just go home and rest. What? That's not what happened to you? So later that day, they would visit Jason and say, hey, we kind of have to do a blood test to make sure you weren't drunk from the night before. And they would end up doing that test at 1 p.m. But fun fact, booze in your bloodstream is gone after 12 hours.
Yeah. And
he stopped drinking if he was drinking by at least 9 p.m. So whether they did that test then or not, even if he had been drinking, nothing would show up.
Right.
That being said, there are more than enough people to say that he hadn't drunk. Multiple dignitaries and whatnots. The waitress at Rooster said, yeah, I only ever gave him a Coke. So right. Definitively, he was not driving under the influence, at least of alcohol. So either way, Jason's sent home. His chief of staff does go with him because the sheriff's like, just keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't, make sure he's okay. And shortly thereafter, the North Dakota Bureau of Investigation was brought in to begin their research and to investigate. Now, typically they would bring in the South Dakota Bureau of Investigation, but this time it was a little tricky because their boss was a guy named Jason Ravnsborg.
Yeah, the Attorney General, the aforementioned Attorney General.
Correct. Meanwhile, Joseph's cousin Victor was already freaking out. He had gone to Joseph's house in the morning, didn't see him there, and when he was returning home, he saw the area of Highway 14 that was taped off and immediately began to worry that it was because Joseph was there.
Yeah.
When he got home, Victor called the sheriff's office, but was eventually told that they would call him back at some point. And as afternoon turned to evening, Victor got more impatient. He called 911, then the highway patrol, but neither of them were able to help. But finally, at 8 p.m., 22 hours after Joseph had been killed, his family was finally able to see him. Police had brought him to a local funeral home to be identified, and only then told Victor what had happened. This led Victor to wonder if this might have been the first time that Joseph's body had actually been moved from the ditch since he was hit. And Victor would be joined by his brother and former Democratic state legislator, Nick. They ID'd Joseph, and that was it. Both would note that the police had no questions for them. They didn't care what had happened. They didn't care what they might know. They just wanted to know that this was Joseph, and that was fucking it. So the Nemecs began to feel that something seemed a little off here. And a few days later, other folks in South Dakota would begin feeling the same way. On September 15th, pictures of Jason's car would be released by the press. Now, I'm going to send you this image. Yeah. So do you want to describe to people what you're seeing right now?
Yeah. So a section of the bumper to the point where you can actually see the white jug that you have to fill up with antifreeze and that kind of stuff. It's totally visible underneath the right-hand side light. The tire's okay. But yeah, I mean, it's scraped to the ridge and then huge indentation on the hood of the car. And yeah, what looks now kind of like a body pressing within the window. I mean, like you said before, it's pretty much crashed out by right along the edge of the passenger side, but then it's just concave until about midway through the window shield.
Well, and the one thing that you can't see from this angle is that the windshield has been pushed in so far that there is actually a gaping hole on the far right.
Yeah.
So as this picture began to make its rounds, people started to wonder if Jason really didn't know what he had hit. So one of the most common questions in the comments at the time, also, why did Jason call 911 first if he thought he hit a deer?
Oh, rather than like animal control?
Well, and I'm speaking from personal experience. The list of people I would call in that situation, if I hit a deer on a country road, it would typically be family, car insurance, and or AAA would be first. The idea of calling 911 after hitting a deer if no one was hurt feels a little weird. Like, I feel like the cops would show up and make fun of me if I did that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're right.
But on the other hand, I also kind of get it because, I mean, clearly the car's not drivable. You kind of need some guidance as to what to do, and it is technically a highway, so
you're a little in shock.
Yeah, and you've
never hit a deer before.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's a valid question, but at the same time, I could also see why he did it. Also, you need to tell someone you're the attorney general in a situation like that. So
I feel like that's the reddest of all flags in this situation.
Yeah, it's not good. And to make things just a little bit weirder, you have to look at the attorney assigned to this case. So Emily Sovell at the time was the Hyde County Deputy State's Attorney. And with the wreck being in her jurisdiction, she ultimately would be the woman to decide what, if any, crimes Jason would be charged with. So Sovell brought a long history of experience. She is the Sully County State's Attorney, as well as being the Deputy Attorney of this county. She has an extensive career running her own private law firm. And oh shit, she was classmates with Jason at the University of South Dakota.
Oh no.
I don't know if they were friends, but they definitely were in the same class.
Oh.
So when a month passed, then 2, then 3, Joseph's family began to wonder, as we all would, what the fuck? It seemed that the North Dakota Bureau of Investigation had finished their look into the case a long while ago. There were no new leads being followed. It just seemed like nothing was being done. It got to the point the governor and monster in waiting, Kristi Noem, began openly advocating for a grand jury to decide if Jason should face any charges. I hate to tell you, Kristi Noem is a small hero in this story.
Okay.
This is where we are right now.
I'll take it, Kristi.
And this seems to be the thing that kicked everything into high gear. By February 2021, the tapes of Jason's 2 interrogations would be released to the press. Now, a judge would immediately order the state to remove them from their website, but by that point, the Dakota Free Press had already uploaded them to YouTube, so go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And Una, holy shit. So the first interrogation occurred on September 14th, 2 days after the accident. It began with Jason recounting the events of the 12th, as he had said to them so many times before. He went to the dinner. He had a baked potato. He drove home. One of the new details is that he called his dad and talked to him for 23 minutes until a dead zone cut off their call before he got to Highmore. Then he drove through Highmore. Then he saw a sign saying the speed limit was now 65, so he sped up. He saw another sign saying it was 48 minutes until he got home to Pier, mentally grumbled at that, and then, quote, wham, I never saw anything until the impact. He calls 911. The operator mentions him hitting a deer. He seems to begin to believe that this is what has happened, and then begins to use the flashlight app on his phone to look around to see if he can see what he hit, but has no luck. Sheriff Volek arrives and he tells him, quote, I think I hit a deer. It was in the middle of the road. From here, the story stays the same. Sheriff offers his car. He gets it, drives home. Next morning, drives back, sees Joseph, drives to tell the sheriff. And Sheriff Volek supposedly responds to this news by saying, quote, you're shitting me.
What? There's a death of an innocent life? Mm-hmm. And that's the response?
Yeah, you're shitting me.
I mean, hopefully with like a little bit more, like, you're shitting me. Like any sort of gravitas. Like a little more
yeah. That's I'm trying to copy it the way that Jason says it, which is probably not fair because the dude is negative charisma, so it was probably said very different. But another big note to all of this is that Jason doesn't really have a ton of emotion recounting this story. And look, I know grief looks different on all of us. We never know how we're going to react to a tragedy. This is something you hear all the time on true crime podcasts. It's like, you don't know what grief looks like. Never take a polygraph. Always have a lawyer.
Yeah. Plus, dude's done multiple tours.
100%. But you still kind of have to notice that Jason just kind of seems calm and griefless talking about this. He seems more exhausted than anything, which could entirely be a legitimate reaction to it.
Yeah.
So the rest of the interrogation is mostly by the book. They ask him to run a skid test on Jason's car to see if the skid marks on the road are accurate to his car. They ask him to turn over his personal and work phone to confirm that he wasn't texting while driving or anything. Both requests are immediately agreed to. And as a little fun detail, when the cops ask if his personal phone has a passcode, it doesn't have one. You could just take the Attorney General of South Dakota's personal phone and just have information.
Not even a 0123, Jason?
No, not even a 4-digit code. His work phone has that, but not his personal.
Oh my God, this guy.
But then a big reveal hits because they found something in Jason's car that seems a little bit amiss. First, they ask Jason if he wears any glasses. And at a future interrogation, they ask him how's his vision. And he says it's very good. He just had a vision test with the Army Reserves the year prior. Doesn't need glasses. Sees just fine. And they say it's because they found a pair of cheaters in the car, which is a slang term that they use for reading glasses, like the sort of ones that you buy for $5 at CVS that are like sitting on a spinning rack.
Oh, sure.
And so Jason begins talking about all the various sunglasses that he's gotten and lost throughout his military service. And he seems to really kind of stick on talking about the Army Reserves and sunglasses at this point. And the cops have to repeatedly tell him, like, look, we're not talking about sunglasses. We're talking about basic black wireframe glasses. Do you know who these could have belonged to? And Jason says, well, without a picture, I can't really say one way or the other. And they reveal that the way they found them was a bit odd because the glasses were broken in half.
Oh my God.
One half was in the wheel well of the passenger seat, and the other half was in the back seat.
Oh no.
And while they're doing paperwork, one of the cops is like, look, I'll get my guy to, text me a picture of the glasses and we can just sit right here and figure it out. And I'm not going to lie, these two dudes, I should have gotten their names. These dudes deserve the job they have. They're nailing it interrogation wise. And it's tough for me because it's like, fuck most cops, if not all cops. I kind of feel a little different though when it's like detectives because I don't know. It's a tough.
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime it's like people digging in and doing the work, I feel the same way with journalists who like just keep asking the questions and like using Occam's razor and going for it, and you're right. Like most of the time people are not doing that. And that's why.
Yeah. When you see two individuals doing this stuff by the book and the way you're supposed to do it, it's very fun to watch and very interesting to see the various tactics you can use. I've kind of been binging a lot of interrogation videos over the past month, making sure that before I watch them, I know the person is 100% guilty due to video evidence and such. So it's been very interesting to watch. And these two dudes from the North Dakota Bureau of Investigation are just killing it. So they bring up these glasses that were broken in half and they're just kind of sitting there in silence as he's waiting for his friend to text him the picture. He might already have the picture and he's just like fucking making him sweat it out just to make him talk. But eventually he shows him the picture and Jason's like, yeah, I don't know who those are. Don't know what to tell you.
And you can't put two and two together at this point, Jason.
And then comes kind of another big question. Do you speed when you drive? And Jason's reply to this is initially no, but the police are really quick to note, like, look, everyone goes 5 miles over the speed limit on the highway.
Yeah, as a Michiganian, I feel it's my God-given right while I'm on the highway to drive 80, and everyone else does.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the rule I always go by when I drive is 5 over. If someone passes you, you can bump it up 1 on the cruise control. Just as long as you're not the fastest person on the highway, you're doing okay.
Yeah, as long as you're not that douchebag.
Yeah. So they bring this up and they're like, look, we're not being jackasses. We're not fucking highway patrol. We do not care about this. You couldn't pay us enough to care about that. And he's like, all right, yeah, I do. But quote, at the most, I will go 4 over.
Oh, wanking motion. Yeah, no one is counting anything other than decimals of 5 at this point. Come on. 4.
Look, I felt the exact same way, but I'm trying to be devil's advocate on this as much as I can. Like, if you have cruise control, if you want, you could stop it right before the hash. If that's like your fucking thing, sure, I guess it's possible. But it's such a weird ass thing to say when it doesn't matter.
I don't believe it for a second. Also, like, yeah, you'd have to have cruise control.
Yeah, which he does.
Fine.
And yeah, it's a weird estimate to make, but Una, we're going to get back to that because we got to go to the second interrogation that happened on September 30th, about 2 weeks after the collision. So they begin the whole thing like the best way that you begin an interrogation. You joke, you have fun, you build a bit of camaraderie to begin with. You're just like, COVID, it sucks.
Yeah, we're both human.
Yeah, what's up with quarantine food? And so they're getting along, they're having a time, and they sit down and they decide, recount everything you told us last time, which is, standard procedure. And so for the most part, the story is the same, but there's a few new details this time around. This time, after talking to his dad, he turns on the radio and he listens to the Lakers Rockets game. He ends up catching the very end of the Twins game, and then he just puts it onto some random Sirius channel. But after leaving Highmore, he turned off the radio so he could focus on a set of upcoming cases that were going to happen. I mean, you know how it is. Being a creative person, you're driving in the middle of nowhere. You want to think about plays, man. You want to have deep thoughts while you're driving.
I keep the radio on so that I don't listen to myself. But sure, for others, I get it. I totally get it.
Other people might be able to do that, yeah. He says he checked his speedometer, saw he was going between 65 and 67, and then, once again, wham. He claims he began tapping the brakes due to his, quote, military training, which does kind of make sense because his main focus in Army Reserves is transportation. The cops were also very keen to say, like, tapping on the brakes isn't a good idea with anti-lock brakes. They're already doing what that tapping is supposed to do.
Ooh, you burnt.
Yeah. Take that, second lieutenant.
Also, at this point, I'm just like, oh, Jason, you dropped something. Here, let me pick it up. It's your military record.
Yeah, it's you could absolutely have a drinking game for the number of times he just drops his military background out of nowhere.
Don't recommend it, but if you do, listeners, give us a shout on Twitter how it went.
Yeah, at one point he says he was in the Army instead of the Army Reserves, and I don't know if that's like a faux pas or stolen valor or how that works, but any military listeners, definitely let me me know. I don't.
Yeah, I can see
It's
it being
probably a
one.
nothing thing, but I don't know. Either which way, he pumps the brakes, pulls over, calls 911. And this time he says when he called, he said he hit a deer, which he never says once during the 911 call.
Now we're getting into places where they have record of this, Jason.
Mm-hmm. So they begin asking him where specifically he walked during and after the call to 911. And in one of the more fucked up details, he keeps referring to Joseph as either the deer or the animal during his retelling.
Ooh.
He notes that the sheriff looked for the deer that he thought he hit, and then started talking about seeing 3 deer the morning that he and his chief of staff returned the car to the scene of the crime, kind of as a way to be like, yeah, there's a lot of deer. Of course I thought there was a deer. He is very much all in on this story at this point. And with the retelling done, the investigators began burrowing in. They get Jason to solidify that the last memory that he had before the crash was turning off the radio, looking at a speedometer, and then the collision happened. And then he's asked, did you use your phone for anything other than calls that night? He is asked this twice, and both times Jason says he only used his personal phone to call his dad. They then ask, how do you access your email? And look, this might be the last moment of humor that we have for a while, so I'm going to pull us into this little oasis. Una, his personal email, Yahoo Mail. You know what? Thunder, Yahoo Mail. And his reasoning is that Gmail is not user-friendly.
This guy is a psychopath.
I mean, at least he didn't say Hotmail, but fuck, he might as well have.
Yeah.
But then they're like, okay, so do you use the app to get to your Yahoo Mail? And he's like, no, I go through the browser. Yep.
You need to be saying this with a flashlight under your chin.
Yeah, he goes through the browser like a fucking caveman.
The browser?
Yep. Well, it's all auto-saved. Why wouldn't he?
Ah!
So the cop then asks, hey, did you check your email that night while you were driving? To which Jason says no. And then he looks at his knees, and his eyes do not leave his knees for the rest of the interrogation.
Oh my God.
And that is because everything that he has just said about his phone is a complete lie. Seems Jason had no clue that his phone kept track of when he went online, when he unlocked his phone, and what websites he looked at when. And police were able to notice that 10 minutes prior to the accident, Jason had checked his Yahoo Mail, then he visited the Dakota Free Press website, then Real Clear News, and then it seems like he clicked a link on Real Clear News to go to a website called Just the News to read an article about Joe Biden in China.
While driving.
And it sure seemed that the time that he visited that last website coincided right along the time that Joseph Beaver was killed. And suddenly, Jason's story changed from, I didn't use my phones to, well, maybe when they fell on the console, they went to a website. And when that didn't work, he began questioning whether or not that info was even accurate, to which the cops just kind of sighed and they're like, Jason, this is data. You can't change this. And then finally finishing with, I wasn't using my phones when the collision happened. And the cops would even note that he had been called out previously for tweeting while driving earlier that fucking year. So this isn't a new thing for him.
It never is.
So nice cop starts to do the whole like, look, man, we all make mistakes. You know, maybe you were checking your phone up to a minute before it happened. You put it down. You know, we just need to know what happened. And this leads Jason to stick to a new outline of events. I set down my phone. I turned off the radio because I didn't want any distractions. I was trying to have less distraction so I could think about these cases. I checked my speedometer. The collision happened. And yeah, with what they have there, it's really not enough to 100% convict without a confession. We don't know the exact time of death for Joseph. We don't know the exact time of the collision. We do know that he called 911 2 minutes after he visited justthenews.com, but it's not quite enough to convict.
Right.
So what they need to get a 100% confession that he did this. It's the only way they're going to be able to prove this. But turns out this isn't the only thing that Jason lied about. So you remember how Jason said that the deer was in the middle of the road? Well, if it was, then it's really weird that the front right of his car had all the damage and that his skid marks started in the shoulder of the road.
Super weird. Or if if the deer were in the middle of the road, it's just as the damage would have just as easily been on his side too.
Yeah, but that's nothing compared to what they were about to say next.
Oh no.
Even more damning and probably one of the more gruesome details is that they had found bone fragments in the rumble strip.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Now, the cops do thoroughly believe that Joseph died on impact. And for his sake, I do, that would be a blessing compared to what that would be. But you got bone fragments in the rumble strip. You have skid marks on the shoulder of the road. And then finally, they were able to prove that the reading glasses that they found in Jason's car had belonged to Joseph. There was a witness who had drove by and saw him with them on. Many people knew that those were his readers. And the only way that they could have gotten in there was if through Jason's windshield. And to quote the cops, they're Joe's glasses. That means his face came through your windshield.
Yep, with enough force to break them and then deposit them in your car.
Into the back fucking seat.
Holy shit.
So Jason keeps trying to say he didn't see Joseph and that, hitting the deer is, quote, what I believe happened, and insisting he wasn't driving on the shoulder. But then the final detail is laid down with the question, did you see his flashlight? Joe, being a smart country dude, had grabbed a powerful flashlight to guide his way down the highway to keep himself safe. One of the big problems in South Dakota is, people walk along rural highways. It's something
there's no other option.
And there is a higher rate of vehicular deaths in South Dakota from people just walking on the side of the road. Sometimes it's people who are drunk. Sometimes it's people just going for a walk. But it is a higher rate than normal compared to other states, which should be something that an attorney general would know. Either which way, so he's out there and he has a flashlight to keep him safe, especially since it was, quote, pitch black, which is something Jason Ravnsborg said during his first interview. They asked him, was there anything weird about the night? And he said, yeah, just how dark it was.
And this guy has a flashlight.
The North Dakota Bureau of Investigation even took Joe's actual flashlight and tested it at night, noting that from whatever direction you were coming, it was very easy to see it. And to prove this, they filmed it. Now, there is no evidence of the film online. It might have been something they said during the interrogation, but a flashlight during no moon whatsoever, in the middle of the fucking country, you're gonna see from any direction. But the other big detail is that after the collision, the flashlight was still working. It was working up until the morning that his body was found.
Oh my God.
And as the cops put it, quote, it was a beacon. You would absolutely see this flashlight. It was lying next to 2 feet of grass where the light would either be showing through the grass or would easily be seen. And to make things even more interesting, Jason's cell data showed him walking past Joe's body twice during the 911 call, making it seem that unless Jason was in complete shock that he would have seen Joe laying there, especially since he was supposedly using his cell phone flashlight to look for him. But to make things even funnier, they asked him, like, so how are you using your cell flashlight? And he's like, well, it's pretty weak, but, I was like looking on the ground. I was looking.
Oh, he's just using the screen?
Oh, no, he was using the flashlight, but it's like still, fairly weak compared to a flashlight. But he was like, he's looking at the ground, but then he motions up to be like, I was looking up for the deer I hit. But all right, let's just say he was in complete shock and didn't see the light. That doesn't explain the sheriff coming there and not seeing the flashlight.
Nope, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
This is getting creepier.
And it's at this point, Jason just shuts down and keeps repeating that he didn't see Joseph at any point. Well, except there is one point. So there's a thing called, I believe it's called subconscious admission, I think is what it's called, where there's one point about an hour, 20 minutes in where he says, quote, I turn around and I'm looking in the ditch. So I don't know exactly where I turn around and saw him. I didn't see him. I did not see him. And this happens a couple of times.
Oh, yikes.
So in a final push, the cops make a note that they have all known people who've hit a deer. And the thing is, when you hit a deer, it's big. It's hard to miss. They freak the fuck out when you hit them. Especially if they hit your windshield, it's very clear when you hit a deer. But once again, Jason denies everything. And one of the investigators just flat out says, some people will call you a liar, Jason. To which Jason says, the man who has lied more than half of this interrogation, quote, I am not a liar. And sadly enough, no confession would come. And the North Dakota Bureau of Investigation would turn their information over to Jason's old college classmates and wait 5 minutes for her to decide that, yes, Jason should be charged.
Whew.
On February 17th, Jason Ravnsborg was charged with operating a vehicle while using a cell phone, driving outside his lane, careless driving. Oh, that's it. It's a total of 3 misdemeanors that, if he was found guilty of all 3, would result in 3 months jail and $1,500 in fines.
I'm sorry, no negligent manslaughter?
So one of the weird things is apparently negligent manslaughter isn't a crime in South Dakota. There's like vehicular manslaughter, but it has to have it has apparently a higher level of provability or something, but we'll get to that in a bit. But those are the 3 that she has settled on. She would state during her first and only press conference, also she has never given an interview, there wasn't enough evidence to support charges of vehicular homicide or manslaughter. This seems to hinge on the blood test showing he wasn't drunk and that you can't really prove that he was on his phone at the time. So he was just, kind of being negligent before it happened. And he didn't, quote, consciously or unjustifiably disregard a substantial risk. So yeah, so those are the 3 charges. So the trial would be conducted by Judge John L. Brown. And one of the first things that Judge Brown decided was that the case should be moved 50 miles west from Hyde County Courthouse in Highmore to the state capital of Pierre, which also happened to be pretty close to where the judge, Jason, and Jason's attorney lived. The excuse given was that Hyde County Courthouse wasn't modernized enough for such a trial, and quote, it is in here for the convenience of the parties. Meanwhile, impeachment proceedings are starting to go through the state legislature to remove Jason. However, the Nemics weren't very optimistic about this because they began to believe that it was just for show. Nick, who still had friends in the legislature, couldn't get any clear times on when the hearings were being held and had to repeatedly request to act as a witness for the state. And by the time the trial began, the impeachment proceedings had been postponed until a verdict had been reached. And just to make things a little bit worse, up until this point, Jason had not reached out to the family of Joseph to offer any condolences.
Oh.
He had been asked by the North Dakota Bureau of Investigation why he hadn't done this, and he said he had essentially wanted to contact Joseph's mother, but he found out that her husband had just died the month prior, and he didn't feel it was appropriate.
Wow. Well, it wasn't appropriate for you to run over her son.
Mm-hmm. On March 12th, the trial would begin and Jason would plead not guilty. I mean, no, I got that wrong. Actually, his lawyer, Tim, would plead not guilty on his behalf because Jason wasn't there. It actually seems like Jason never once had to actually appear in court during the whole trial.
What an asshole. What, did his tummy hurt?
I mean, I'm sure he had important websites to visit that day. Court would move slowly. So much so that Jason would get into one last bit of trouble right before the end. So 4 days before the case was closed, Jason would get a speeding ticket. His 7th since 2014.
Come on.
So you remember how Jason said he only goes 4 miles over the speed limit at any time?
Yeah.
This time he was caught doing 58 and a 35.
Jesus Christ.
Some past highlights, because in his entire life he has gotten 9 speeding tickets, 2 in Iowa, 7 in South Dakota. 2014, in Yankton County, he was pulled over for doing 55 and a 45. 2015, pulled over for doing 40 and a 30. 2015, he did 85 and a 65. 2017, 75 and a 70, which I'll give you that. That is some bullshit. 2018, doing 80 and a 65. And also in 2018, doing 40 and a 35.
The fact that he's blowing through the speed limit in like such low speed limit area, like it's one thing if like you're consistently getting like 90 on the highway and pulled over for that, you know, that's one thing, but it's just like you're going through, I'm assuming, residential areas, dude.
Yeah. Also during this time, he got a seatbelt violation at one point, and he also got a fine for not having a proper exhaust system on his car.
Come on, all that's missing is like the souped up Camaro with an illegal engine.
So on August 26th, Jason would take a plea bargain from the state. First, he changed his plea to no contest, which are you familiar with pleading no contest?
A little bit. I've heard it described as a like, yeah, I get it. Can we all just move on with our lives?
Pretty much. It's in most cases, it's saying, yeah, I did it, but there's reasons. It's a little different in South Dakota when it comes to misdemeanors, though, because if you plead no contest to a misdemeanor, legally, that is not an admission of guilt and can never be treated as an admission of guilt.
This lawless, backward state.
So in exchange for this plea for 2 of the 3 charges, one would get dropped. He would pay $4,000 in fines and serve no time in jail or probation. And he also did not show up to plead no contest.
Wow. I'm enraged. There, like, a life has been taken. Someone is no longer up and breathing and a part of society because of him. $4,000, no time in jail.
And you know, not to get super COVID, but it'd really be nice to have another nurse around. I mean, so the next month, the Department of Public Safety Secretary Craig Price would look over the case and publicly stated that, hey, there's definitely enough evidence here to charge Jason with second-degree manslaughter, which if he was found guilty for that, the maximum penalty is 10 years in prison and $20,000. The prosecuting attorneys, though, disagreed with Price, and that was pretty much the end of it. Price sent his findings to the state legislature and said, hey, we should probably resume impeachment hearings, and to this day, they still haven't.
Wow.
Since the end of the trial, Jason has been promoted to the rank of colonel in the Army Reserves and was recently named the vice chair of the Conference of Western Attorneys General. Also, he's running for re-election. Thunder. Yeah, it's fucking terrifying that a dude who allegedly got away with manslaughter, but there is a little bit of hope. So, like I said before, the party gets to pick who they want to run through their state convention, and he is currently being primaried by the most recent former Attorney General, Marty Jackley. From what I can tell, the dude is very beloved in South Dakota. He already has a bulk of endorsements and seems to only be missing endorsements from people who are connected directly with Jason's trial.
Wow.
But really, I mean, who fucking knows how this could go? 2022 is going to be fucking weird. So it makes it all the more annoying that the Democrats haven't announced any candidates and no independents have entered the fray yet. So for the time being, we should all just kind of keep an eye on things. The filing deadline's still a while out, so we can, at least take a fucking breath. And while we all have disparate political beliefs, if the choice comes down to a dude who allegedly did a murder with a car and a regular Republican dude, I think that makes it a pretty easy choice for all of us. So I think all I have to do is just pull up Marty Jackley's Wikipedia page and see what he's been up to. And he represented a man by the name of T. Denny Sanford in 2020, who is the richest man in South Dakota, and he was investigated for charges of possessing child pornography.
Really know how to pick him, South Dakota.
It's not great. So, Democrats or Libertarians, you're a recognized party in South Dakota.
You are, and you love your freedom to guns.
Look, one of you fuckers have to step up. And there is another option. I was looking over the Secretary of State website for requirements to run for Attorney General in South Dakota. There appear to be none because it was created in a constitutional amendment. So I don't see anything that says you have to have a legal background or that you have to live there. You just have to collect something like 3,500 signatures.
Oh, shit.
You know who's really good at collecting signatures?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rocky De La Fuente.
Rocky! Yes! We need a hero.
This might be the time to recruit Rocky De La Fuente to run for South Dakota Attorney General if they don't get their fucking shit in order.
Please, for the love of God.
Yeah, it's, I've never run a hashtag thing, but yeah, hashtag draft Rocky, I guess.
Yeah, Rocky for Attorney General. He has not allegedly killed a man with his car. Mm-hmm. Or been the attorney for a man caught in possession of child pornography.
100%. At worst, he's not allowed to run a bank. And if anything, that's a positive.
Yeah, that's a net win.
Yeah. And, a part of me was just like, I could probably find 4,000 signatures in South Dakota. I would just run on the whole campaign of like, hey, I'm not qualified. I don't live here, but I never killed a guy with my car. And I promised to resign after 1 week. Yeah. I would not do this job well.
Have at me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this is easily the scariest story just because no one knows about this really. I think if you live outside of South Dakota, there's not a lot of people that know that the Attorney General essentially got away with, distracted driving and ran a dude over.
Yeah, not since reading Helter Skelter, the big book by Vincent, I'm going to blank out his name, but all about the Manson murders and just how badly the LAPD botched the investigation so that the murder resulting in more murders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not since then have I been this terrified.
Yeah. I mean, it by all rights, it would be a really interesting Netflix documentary. I think there's a lot of cool things you could do with this. The problem is I don't think anyone aside from the Nemecks would talk. Emily Stovall clearly doesn't want to talk. I don't think you can get Mike Bullock to talk. I don't think Jason Ravnsborg would want to relive this anytime soon.
Definitely not. But for Joseph's family, I just want like a big bright light shown on this fuckery.
Yeah, I wish I had a link or a hashtag. But yeah, honestly, the world would be a decent bit better with Joseph Beaver in it. So yeah, I think the best at least we can do with who knows what's going to happen to the world is, just keep an eye on this race. And if there's anyone coming up who has a genuine chance of winning an election who could genuinely lose, I think this is one worth keeping an eye on and really trying to fight to make sure that this guy does not stay here.
Yep.
And there's a ghost in my house. I don't know. It's
like, I'm scared, but not spoopy scared.
No.
More like sad scared.
Yeah. I mean, y'all made it through this one. Put on Addams Family or Addams Family Values, even though that is a Thanksgiving movie. I'll thank you very much. But yeah, have some self-care. Have a good time. Yeah. Back to regular. And, we'll see you next week. Ideally with a happier story here on Gadfly. All right. Thunder. Love it. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.